Love is in the air here at the Disenfranchised Podcast. That's right, that podcast all about those franchises of one, those films that fancy themselves full-fledged franchises before falling flat on their face after the first film, have gotten nipped by the love bug. It's our Valentine's Day episode, and you know what that means. It means I'm your host, Stephen Foxworthy, joined, as always, by the man with that look. It's Tucker. Hey, Tucker.
Hi, Stephen. How's it going?
It's going, man. It's going. How are things going with you tonight, buddy?
I'm okay.
Yeah?
Like I said before, I ate a few too many hot wings. So
The food of love, hot wings.
I'm taking deep breaths. Straight up trying not to barf.
Please do. You drinking maybe like some almond milk or like something to maybe kind of settle your stomach down a little bit?
I poured a shot of bourbon here though, if you think that would help.
I mean, I've got some of that in my Diet Coke here. So
I've been trying to hit my pin so that my stomach will feel better, or like I won't care about it.
Is that making it better or worse?
Well, I have 2 new cartridges and neither of them seem to want to work very well, so
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's a little frustrating.
Man. That is frustrating.
Especially this evening.
Right? And of course, it wouldn't be a Valentine's Day episode of the Disenfranchised Podcast unless we had our eternal snuggle buddy, the cuddliest of bunnies, our perennial and eternal Valentine, now and forever, from the pod and the pendulum, our good friend, Mr. Mike Snoonian. Mike, welcome back.
Howdy, howdy.
How we doing tonight, man?
Doing well. It's been a week.
Yeah.
Happy to record with you here. It's been a week. Yeah.
Oof. Well, hey, it's over now.
It is. Must have been love.
But it's over now. Well, I mean, look, at the time of this recording, it's Friday. I'm in love. So
excellent.
I've also heard that you've got to get down on Friday because everybody's waiting for the weekend, right?
Working for the weekend, even.
No, but like when my friends come pull up in the car, which seat will I choose?
And I mean, in here in a few days, it's going to be a Blue Monday. So,
and that's cool.
Song references. Mike, a couple months ago, or I guess it was probably back in November when we were first kicking around the idea of you coming back for because I've always got a spot for you on this episode. Mm-hmm. The week before Valentine's Day or the episode that drops before Valentine's Day, I know I'm putting Mike on the schedule, and I reached out to you with a list of films saying, hey, these are kind of vaguely Valentine's-y themed, and there was one in particular that stood out to you, and it's the film we're talking about tonight, and that is the Indonesian superhero film Valentine, The Dark Avenger from 2017. What is it that drew you to this film in particular, Mike? I'm curious.
It wasn't Valentine's Day, the romantic comedy.
It wasn't.
Yes.
Okay.
That was it. I mean, that was really it.
I don't think I gave you that one, though.
I think it was. Can we go back and can we check the tape, as they say? Let's go back and let's look at the history here.
Okay.
So I am going to, folks, there's nothing more exciting on a podcast than people going back and looking at their Twitter history.
It's one of my favorite things.
It is absolutely. So this is, and Steven's like, great, now I get to go back and edit this later on down the road.
Oh, Tucker does the editing. It's fine.
Steven
so
editing,
Tucker
LOL.
is loving this.
No, this is fine. We're within the first 4 minutes, so if there's any pauses over 2 seconds, I mean, it's early. I'm probably in the editing process. I'm still adjusting volumes and making sure everything's good. So easy. Early in the podcast, easy. Make all the mistakes you want.
He's also he's probably also killing my mic for because I got a cat chasing a ball.
Here are the choices we got. I think you're absolutely right. Oh, here we go. This is what you gave me.
Yep.
The RoboCop reboot. Barbarella.
Yep.
Fifth Wave.
Oh, well, that was all for stuff coming up. Okay. Yeah, that was all for stuff coming up in advance of this episode.
Okay, so you are correct. Valentine's Day the romantic comedy was not one of the choices. I don't know where The Love Guru.
Yeah,
That's why.
I think that might have been the one that you.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
most
I couldn't
averse
I couldn't do The Love Guru with Mike Myers. Couldn't do
Okay.
it.
I mean, fair.
Wasn't going to subject myself to that.
I did give you a couple of horror ones on there too, and you went for the foreign superhero movie, which kudos.
Never get to not talk about horror movie. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I have multitudes.
You do.
People.
You do. And you and I have talked about non-horror movies before.
We talked about the Muppets.
We've talked about the Muppets. We've talked about the Friends of Eddie Coyle.
That's right. The Killers.
Tucker, did you end up seeing the Friends of Eddie Coyle?
I finally watched it, yeah.
And what did you think of it?
It was rad ass, is what I just said. Not even badass, it was rad ass.
Number 4, Bobby Orr. It's so good.
It was mad rad. And you were right, it was right up my alley.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I enjoyed it so much. At the time, I would have given it 4 stars out of 5. But now that I've seen this movie, every movie I've ever reviewed retroactively gets an extra star.
Wow.
Tucker says, I'm not even going to read the text that he sent me after he watched this movie.
Okay.
But he's not a fan, I guess.
Okay.
I think we can say. But the 2017 film Valentine, directed by Agus H. Mawardi. I should probably just up top say I'm gonna butcher a lot of names, and I am very sorry about that. To everyone who is of Indonesian descent or from Indonesia, I apologize. Written screenplay by Bebi Hasibuan, based on a character created by Aswin MC Sirigar, and Sarjono Sutrisno, excuse me, and starring Estelle Linden, Ari Degawinks, Matthew Settle, Ahmad Afandi, and many others that I dare not attempt to pronounce. What a cast!
What a picture!
What a picture!
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So did anyone have any previous knowledge of this character prior to this movie? I think I know the answer to this question.
Nah.
Not at all. But it wasn't Mike Myers in The Love Guru.
I mean, you're right.
That's
you
fair.
are correct. It was definitely not that. What it was is a low budget foreign superhero film that really seemed very inspired by every era of Batman ever, from Adam West all the way up through Snyder, which I thought was interesting to see what elements they kind of borrowed from each era of the Batman. And one of the person who gets the story by credit is one of the creators of the character. So I'm going to assume this is all comic accurate. To our listeners who don't know, this is based on the Indonesian comics character Valentine, based on the Skylar Comics character Valentine. I do not know that the comics have been translated to English or released in the United States. I have not been able to locate them. I have tried extensively. Ever since Mike picked this episode, I've been looking. Haven't found anything. The Skylar Comics website is defunct. Nothing about the company is listed on Wikipedia at all. I had to do some digging to research this one because this might as well not exist, honestly.
You telling me she never ended up fighting that rocket guy in like the third mid-credit sequence?
We'll get to that because that's
there's a mid-credit sequence.
Oh,
there
did you
are
not
like
stick
5.
around?
I did not.
What happens is
Wow.
there's like 30 seconds of credits, and then like a minute and a half scene, and then 30 seconds of credits, and they even like fade the song in and out, and it's the same song. It's that
Same song.
terrible rap song where the guy, you're almost like, wait, there's no way that's Dr. Dre. No, that's not Dr. Dre. Okay.
It is
He
a
wants
very
to be
bad
Dr.
rap song.
Dre.
He wants to
So
be Dr.
bad.
Dre so bad.
The only thing worse than the R&B song and the rap song, which might be the same song, I'm not sure. The only thing worse than the actual music and presentation of those songs is the lyrics.
Wow.
Yes, the 2-year-old toddler that works with me. We work together.
We're colleagues.
That
Do you work
lives
in
with
Arkansas?
me. He could have written
Close,
he could
New
have
Hampshire.
written better lyrics, and he only knows like a handful of words. It would have been about crackers and juice, but like it would have been better.
They say justice a lot. They're talking about the purple mask a lot.
Yeah,
like it's a whole thing.
I mean, there is a Batgirl vibe to this character, like down to the costume, right? I mean, that is definitely the vibe.
Absolutely,
that I'm definitely getting here.
Some kick-ass mixed in there too.
Absolutely,
like a little hit girl, and especially in terms of like the social media angle of it, which I think was probably fairly novel in 2017, at least in certain parts of the world. So, I mean, and
poor Tucker's face right now. Like, I know, again, podcasting being a very visual medium, but he's like, I can't believe I had to like not only watch this movie, but like talk about it.
And not to mention that compounded with the physical discomfort of all the hot wings. He's just having the night of his life right now. You can tell. You can see it all over his face.
Yeah, you guys, this movie hurt me. Like, I feel personally attacked by this film, and in that attack, I was injured somehow.
You said you were getting motion sickness because of the editing and fight choreography.
Well, and that's it's just so bad, you guys. Everything about it is horrible. Every second of this movie, like, I had to put so much effort into watching this movie because it actively did not want me to watch it. It was so uninteresting and boring and stupid that, like, it was so I had to put my phone across the room so I wouldn't pick it up and start looking at stuff. I had to at one point I almost had to Clockwork Orange myself, you know what I mean? Because like I could not stay interested. I couldn't even pretend to stay interested in this movie. Sorry. Go ahead, everyone. It's so bad.
I had it ahead of my Iron Man 2.
Oh, really? Steven gave it 2 stars. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Spoilers, but like I saw that, I'm like, did we watch the same movie? Maybe I saw the director's cut. Maybe that's what it was.
I don't know. Maybe.
No, it's an hour and 37 minutes. We watched the same one.
I mean, I watched a lot of 90s Trek. Like, and this gave me that like 90s straight to video, go to the video store and bring home like a bad action movie, bad comic book adaptation feel to it. So maybe it hit like a bit of like a warmer nostalgia spot for me.
Like
where
a
like
Dolph Lundgren Punisher or a Matt Salinger Captain America kind of a thing.
Yeah, like I'm not going to argue that it's a particularly well made. And I watched it the same night that I watched Anatomy of a Fall, which is like one of the, and I would say like it's maybe a half a tick below in terms of the filmmaking skill that's going on there. Maybe a, like a hair below. So, but like I didn't hate it. Like I actually quite enjoyed watching it. Like it definitely brought back a little bit of nostalgia for me in terms of like that renting something at the video store that wasn't quite great, but sitting around like the living room floor with like pizza and soda with friends and maybe like not mocking is maybe too strong a word, but like kind of like laughing at a movie with friends and,
like an MST3K vibe kind of thing.
That's something that I kept thinking to myself when I was watching this. And this is the worst thing that I could possibly say about a film is that I wouldn't even watch this if it were on Mystery Science Theater. Nay, I don't like new Mystery Science Theater. If it were on Mystery Science Theater season 7 through 10, I still would not watch it. I still would not be able to get through this sucker. Like, it's a miracle it happened tonight. I only did it for the pod.
Right.
I did it for you guys.
That's right. And you'd do it again if we asked you to.
I would. I would bitch a lot.
I know you
about
would.
It. Like, boy, I can bitch.
You really
me,
liked,
I know.
You really liked The Flash, right?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that.
Right.
That was
and
fun.
I enjoyed
Not
it.
a good movie. Not a good movie, but just really
the Flash
fun.
More than most. And I enjoyed The Flash more than most.
Me
and
too.
I was and The Flash is a better made film. Like I'm not going to argue that like it's but The Flash had like infinitely more resources to like throw at it than something like this, right? And I
Right.
would say like on a per dollar basis for like what this movie had versus like what the Flash had, I would say that you get about the same result, like in a cost per dollar, like what you're getting. I would even say like some of the fight sequences in here, like some of the martial arts skill that is shown here, is maybe even a little better than what you're getting with like Ezra Miller, who, it's unfortunate because he's actually quite a talented performer. It's unfortunate that he is who he is as a human being, which
Yeah,
I would,
they're a
say
pretty
like,
awful person. Yeah, I agree.
yeah. Oh, that's correct. I forgot that is their pronoun. So that they are not maybe they're not the best human being in terms of the choices they've made in life and
Right.
what they've done. And we're forgiving of multi-million-dollar spectacle theater, and like this is much smaller,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot fewer resources that are going into it, so I have a harder time coming down on it as hard as I would say like something where you have like all the resources that Warner Brothers can throw at something.
Right. This
Like that's
feels
where I'd throw my anger at something if I really didn't like something.
this feels a lot more like a labor of love to me. Like someone cared about this, and you can kind of see that on the screen. Like, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like I would give this movie at least an extra half star if I were watching just a subtitled version of it in its original language and not
Mm-hmm.
the dub that we get with the American version of it.
Yeah.
Because that dub is pretty egregious in points. Like there are times when I feel like the dub inhibits the performance the
Yeah.
actual original actor is giving. I'm thinking specifically of the scene where Sri, the main character, is visiting her father's grave, and she's like crying and sobbing and asking, "Why did you give up?" Like she's questioning her father on this thing that has clearly haunted her for her entire life. And the actress giving the voiceover is just like screaming, and it doesn't feel like the performance that I'm watching and the performance that I'm hearing are clearly two very different performances, and it's very off-putting for me as I'm watching this thing, just going, I don't like this at all.
It's funny that you say that, Stephen, about this feeling like a labor of love. And that's the cool thing about art and perception and shit, is that we're two completely different people, and we saw the same movie, but we saw two completely different things because this was the most soulless piece of shit I've ever seen in my life. Like, Mike, you were talking earlier about those movies you'd rent in the 90s. I was also that kid who would rent those movies too. And those movies sucked, but they were trying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could tell people were trying, and like people were having fun making these and putting everything into them. That's why you enjoyed them, not because they were good. But this movie, to me, I didn't feel any of that. It just felt like soulless garbage to me. That's
How
wild.
did you feel about the police captain, though, who did come in fourth place in the Edward J. Olmos lookalike contest at the Des Moines county fair? You had to feel pretty good about that.
He was not the worst performance. I think the worst performance for me was the main character's mother.
Oh, she was pretty.
Yeah.
Both the actress and especially the voiceover actress.
But she's not in it that much. I mean, she's in it for all of two scenes.
She's in it enough to where that sticks out to me because it was so horrible.
Right. But it's a pretty
one-note horrible performances.
I mean,
it is a very one-note performance. Yeah, it's a stereotypical nagging mother
disappointed,
kind of role. Yeah.
Disappointed mom, and it's like a cultural stereotype as well. Like it's very much a cultural stereotype mom. Like, I'm disappointed in my daughter. She's dropped out of school. You're a disappointment to the family. Yeah, and she's in it she has maybe 2 to 3 minutes of screen time, like altogether.
Right.
I mean, in a 90, and it's a movie that zips along. I mean, it probably felt like the longest 90. Look, if you want to feel your age, if you want to feel like time has crawled to a standstill, go and watch Ghost of Frankenstein, which is 68 minutes.
Oh man.
And you will feel like you have watched Killers of the Flower Moon 3 times. You will feel like you have aged because that movie just drags. Like,
time has passed. The sun has gone from one side of the sky to the other.
Right. But yeah, it is paced. That movie is paced abominably. Yeah. But I definitely agree. First of all, I think the voice actor is also doing an Edward James Olmos impression too, which just makes it
the mother
much better for the captain.
Yeah.
Which would be amazing if the mom was doing
I'd be honestly more into it. Honestly, that would be the hook for me.
That would be great if the mom's just, why Starbuck? Why are you not? I can't do Edward James Olmos. I'm not going to try. But
I would say this movie does a really weird thing. You mentioned the social media aspect. It's like we haven't talked about the hook of this movie. Is where there's like a character named Bono who is decided that he wants to make a superhero movie because he wants to inspire the persons of this city that are somehow feel downtrodden for some reason. And
the youth in particular.
Youth in particular. And he's like, I don't want to film a superhero movie because like that is where all the money is. I want to do a superhero movie to inspire the youth. But he's been shot down. Which to me is like, no, man, if you're going to make money, the producer is like, no, we're not going to do this.
Yeah, the producer is just like, I literally says, I make movies to make money. Yeah.
Yeah, which is ironic. And this movie came out in 2017. So like almost a decade after Iron Man. So it's like, sir.
Yeah.
Have you even?
No, he is not, clearly.
Right. So his idea, I love that his name is Bono. I absolutely love that. And he has one leg.
He does.
And that'll be important later on when I do my 60-second synopsis for the joke I have.
That was one where they got me, because during that scene he's just like touching his leg and I'm like, oh, here we go again, some dumb shit I don't need to see. And then they're like, haha, some dumb shit you do need to see. And I was like, oh, you got me, movie, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. Because like, he has his assistant. I can't remember the assistant's name.
Wawan?
But they can't. Okay, we'll say it's Wawan. Sure, why not?
The designer?
Sure.
Yeah, that's Wawan.
Okay. You're much better at this than me.
I'm also looking at the cast list right now.
Yeah. Because I'll watch a movie and be like, yeah, the main monster in that movie with Frankenstein, sure, you bet.
Yeah,
that's the one. Frankenstein, that's the one. The guy that bites people, Dracula? Yes. Yes, that's
the hairy guy, the wolf man. Sure,
yes.
Sure. If you say so.
So, Bono, he's like, I need my superhero, but he still hasn't found what he's looking for. We're going to do a lot of that. We're going to do a lot of that tonight.
Can't wait.
Right? His idea.
I might do one.
Absolutely.
That's all. Just the one.
Very good. That was a pretty fly joke.
That was great.
There was some edge to it. I can't do like a Larry Mullins, there's no. But there's his idea is like, what I'm going to do is like he finds Srimaya. And he's like, we're going to hire you to be our actress. He sees her like kicking ass. And he's like, you're going to be my Valentine. But his idea is like, you're going to actually go out and fight real crime. And we're going to film it to drum up publicity. But he just has her keep doing that. Like there's no script. There are no other actors that we know of.
There aren't. No, it's very Bowfinger-esque in that regard.
Right. It's just like.
Oh, I like that movie.
I haven't watched that instead.
Bowfinger, great movie.
I haven't watched
Steve Martin, Eddie Murphy. Fuck yeah.
Frank Oz, yeah.
Was Bowfinger thought of as a great movie like when it came out? I just have this. Okay, I didn't think so. So it's now one of those things where now we think it's great, but
it has been reclaimed. Yeah, successfully reclaimed.
It's like been reclaimed from who? Like
the people that didn't like it.
Okay. Did they claim it or did they push it away? I would think they would.
Well,
Semantics,
they
man.
they
That's
threw it
awesome.
away, and we reclaimed it from the garbage where those people
Okay.
threw it away.
Okay. So this idea that like we're gonna like make this superhero movie, but they never really makes a movie. Like I don't think there was ever. I think this is all a ruse to just make your own superhero. Like there's no movie.
Well, he dies halfway through, so we never
Yeah.
know if there was going to be a movie or not.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
never.
This
we
is
never
what
spoil
happens
movies
when
around
you're
here.
a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest.
Yeah, dude.
You get
Pretty
shot.
much. Yeah,
That was my joke.
I love it.
It's good.
Well, why don't we just go ahead and I mean, we've done half the
I
plot
feel
already.
like we just did.
Why don't we just for the sake of appearances,
Just for funsies.
go ahead and throw to the plot in 60 seconds. This is the part of the show where normally at the behest of either the D6 of Destiny or the Coin of Justice, depending on how many people are on the pod, we decide which of us will recount the plot in 60 seconds. But when we have a guest like we do tonight, and that guest is as special to us as Mr. Mike Snoonian, we ask if they would be willing to take a stab at the plot in 60 seconds. And Mike graciously agreed
Passed.
to do so.
I
I mean, I can check those receipts if you'd like. But I've got 60 seconds on the clock, Mike. I will give you the 30 and 10-second warnings as I always do. The clock will start whenever you begin.
So Shadow, a masked figure and his 3 minions straight out of an anime convention, kidnap some low-level criminal, bring him to his dad's home, who happens to be a cop, and execute him for whatever dad's crimes were. Soon afterward, we meet Sramaria and her brother Umbra, and Sramaria is a disappointment to her mother, who Tucker can't stand. That's very important to the plot, that Tucker can't stand Mom. Soon after, we meet Bono, and he says we need to film a movie on these streets that have
30
no
seconds.
name. Oh, fuck this. But he wants to make a superhero movie, but he is rejected by the producer. He finds his star, Sramaria, after she beats the crap out of a grabby patron at the cafe she works at. He makes her into Valentine, drags her out. She starts fighting crime with Wei Wan, who's filming it. Valentine becomes a internet sensation. Everybody is inspired by Valentine. She keeps fighting crime until she tries. Oh, God!
Keep going. You're doing great.
Keep going.
Keep going. You're doing great. You are. I want to get to that.
You're
joke.
saying that with the same enthusiasm my wife does when I give her like the best 38 seconds of her week. Okay, keep going.
I mean, it is Valentine's Day, Mike.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
No, you misheard. He didn't say, "Are you done yet?"
Oh.
Like,
Anyway, Shadow and his crew of anime characters take hostages at a local bank, maybe, and the police show up. He has all these demands, and he starts blowing stuff up. A fight ensues. Valentine is in hot pursuit. There is a big chase. There is a fight that takes place over 2 vans. There are definitely streets that have no name because it's a green screen. Valentine loses for the first time. She quits being Valentine. Bono decides he wants to be a hero and tries to stop a crime. But again, when you're a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, you get shot to death. He dies. Valentine stops. There is some sort of like climate change thing. Oh, there's a climate change thing. The cops are corrupt. Something happens. Valentine shows up. Shadow takes over the climate change conference. Valentine and Shadow fight. Wouldn't you know it, Shadow is actually her brother. And Umbra says, hey, the captain of the police actually murdered our dad because our dad used to be corrupt. Then he became a cop. He was going to expose the other corrupt cops. He got murdered for it. They made it look like a suicide. Shadow/Umbra then kills the police captain on live TV. He then gets killed. Some wacky shit happens after that. Valentine says, my fight's not over. She puts her little mask on his tombstone and then rides off on a motorcycle. Credits roll, and apparently there are some sort of after credits after that.
So there
I did
are
not see that.
two mid-credit scenes.
Is there a giant robot?
No, but there is a flying man who destroys a meteor.
Oh,
There's
And
one where like a guy just like looks around the corner, and that's I don't even know who it was or what was supposed to be happening. No context. Like, what was that? The second one. See, what was that?
the second one, it was Umbra's Umbra's drawer in the morgue was pulled open, and the body was missing, and then you see an orderly pushing a cart, presumably with Umbra's dead body, down a long hallway. And that's the second one.
Yeah, he was shot in the head, though.
So I mean, I don't know anything about this comic book universe because I can't find any of the fucking comics anywhere. So I don't know if there's a character that brings people back to life, if there's an Indonesian version of a Lazarus pit or something. I have no idea. So what I do know is that they absolutely have been trying to kick off a cinematic universe based on this movie.
Oh dear.
And they keep announcing shit, and almost none of it comes out. Only one thing has come out so far. Another one has apparently been filmed, but they've had a trailer out for like almost 3 years now.
See, this is 7 years ago since this movie is hit. That's a long time.
And you know why none of this stuff has been made, Stephen?
Why, Tucker?
Because nobody gives a fuck.
Well, I don't think it's being made for you. I mean, this is I mean, it's an Indonesian company. These are Indonesian films. That this one got released in America at all is kind of miraculous. I think they were trying to recoup some of their costs. The research I had to do, the links I had to go to research this movie to find out any behind the scenes shit was extensive. It involved a lot of Google Translate, I will say that, and Wayback Machine. But there's not a lot of information out there for us to be able to access about these characters unless you speak Indonesian or Malay, and those are languages I neither speak nor understand. So, but I did on The Flash, I did craft a timeline that runs about 10 years of Skylar Comics and the development specifically of this movie. And it is, as you might suspect, bit of a clusterfuck.
I can't believe it.
I know.
Let's hear it.
Tough to believe. So 2011, Skylar Comics is formed by film producer Sarjono Sutrisno, actor Marcelino Lafront, and comics artist and musician Aswin MC Siragar. It is a subsidiary. It's formed as a subsidiary of Skylar Pictures, which is Sutrisno's production company. So Skylar Pictures and Skylar Comics both show up at the beginning of this movie. That's why. And the logo for Skylar Comics is literally just the Skylar Pictures logo with a cape and a mask. December 30th, 2012, their first comic, Volt Edition 00, debuts at PopCon Asia. December 3rd of the following year, Skylar Pictures signs a deal to produce a movie based on the comic character Volt. Volt is their flagship character. Volt is the character that we see at the end of the movie flying into the meteor to destroy it. That is their flagship character. He's like the Superman to Valentine's Batman, presumably. He has electricity-based powers, essentially. In June 25th of 2014, Valentine makes her comics debut, and discussion surrounding a film based on that character begins immediately. The film actually enters pre-production later in 2014. So they rushed this thing into production, which on some level kind of shows. In February of the next year, they start filming. The initial release date is slated for March or April of 2015, but filming takes 121 days. So they don't hit that mark. By August, there's a trailer ready. August 2015. The trailer premieres at PopCon Asia with no confirmed release date. We go to May 2016.
With no fanfare.
I mean, I'm sure there was fanfare, just not from you.
And the crowd goes wild.
Yay. And there was much rejoicing. 2016, In May of 2016, the director confirms that the film will be released no later than December 2016. So, of course, in December of 2016, they start CGI post-production on the movie. By August of 2017, there's finally a new trailer out, and that trailer comes with a release date of November 23rd, 2017. Later in August, however, the CGI house that is responsible for the visual effects, Epic Studios, has a server crash. That's going to be important later, because the movie does in fact come out on November 23rd, 2017.
Just like Food Fight, man.
Just like Food Fight.
Just
God,
like
that movie
Food Fight.
Now, you talk about bad movies, man. Food Fight is this is like an Oscar-worthy masterpiece compared to Food Fight.
I can't wait to watch it just to say that this is worse.
I don't know how you can.
I'm firm in my belief that this is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
If anyone's going to find a way to say that, it's going to be you.
It's
3 days later, on November 26, 2017, Skylar Pictures pulls the movie from theaters, citing technical problems. It goes 3 days in theaters. A couple days later, they release a statement, and they say that the technical difficulties were a result of the server crash at Epic Studios. They say the film might be released later. There's a possibility that it'll come out, but we don't know when. And again, this is a movie they've been promising since 2014. In May,
it wasn't the result of Hot Wings.
It was not.
Wow.
In May, toward the end of May 2018, May 24th, 2018, there is a web series based on another Skylar Comics property called Jawara Indonesia, which, as best as I can figure, means Champions of Indonesia. That debuts on Stro TV. Stro TV is the official streaming service of Skylar Pictures. To date, it is the only other piece of media related to the Skylar universe that has yet been released. And near as I can tell, it is not available anywhere in English.
Is it a universe if it's just one movie?
No, they got a TV show too. Did you not hear me just say there was a TV show?
Yeah. But I didn't.
But Estelle Linden does not appear in it, nor does Valentine.
Get it. Estelle Getty, what?
Estelle Linden, the actress who plays Valentine in this movie. She's not in that series.
I thought that lady from Golden Girls made a cameo and I missed it.
No, but I do.
Would you like the picture more if Estelle Getty was Valentine?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Oh, I don't know. It really depends, because even if she were in it, like the dialogue,
wouldn't that be entertaining?
Yes.
To a point. But when something's as bad as this, like, that's only entertaining for a few minutes, honestly.
Estelle
like
would
at first you're like,
material.
oh, that's what that would hold me, thrill me, kiss me, and kill me, honestly. But only for a few minutes.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So what you're saying, I blanked. I absolutely blanked.
Mike heard a U2 reference and just
because it's
such
been
an obscure
long.
one too. That one's out there in the weeds.
That's why he
somewhere.
appreciated it, though.
Thank you.
Well, I was gonna say what you're saying is this movie is bad, because that is a great U2 song, especially the live version of it. But I think people associate that with Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or with this, this movie too, probably.
Estelle Getty, I think, would elevate the material.
I agree.
I think so too. Like I say, for so long. Yeah.
So I actually I actually have some things I do like about this movie. I actually thought Estelle Linden was fun to watch in this movie. I agree. Has some skill as a martial artist, and I think the fight scene that takes place in the conference center towards the end, it's actually not too shabby, with her and the other three young women who look. And you mentioned the Batman reference. There's one woman who is literally wearing the enlarged Batman logo that is straight out of Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, where it has the large round Batman symbol. That's where you really only see that one.
Legally distinct, just legally distinct enough to get away with it. But yeah,
well, she had been doing that the whole movie with different costumes. First time we saw her, she was dressed as a minion.
No, first time she's dressed as a ballerina, all in white.
I didn't notice that because it wasn't an IP, so I didn't.
But you know, she
recognize
is
it.
dressed as a minion later. She's dressed as a clown in a couple instances. Like
She's the Joker with the Batman logo. She's like,
she's the cosplay villain, basically.
yeah.
She's all of us.
And I
Well,
kind
maybe
of
you.
enjoy that. It's not great, but I think the fight scenes in and of themselves in that end are fun, and there's enough there, and it's better than some of the. It's like not Scott Adkins. Like I'm not
Right.
going to say it's that, although Scott Adkins is Valentine, instant half-star rating added to this movie.
100%.
But it's like pretty good. I appreciate that they don't shoehorn a romance in between Bono and Valentine. I think that would have been
100%.
kind of icky. I'm like, we're going to avoid that by like just killing him off midway through the movie. Kind of surprised they went that route. Like, I actually genuinely surprised, like, did not see that coming.
Do you
And
think they buried
starting-
him under a Joshua tree?
I do,
Love
actually.
it. No, he was definitely under the streets that have no name.
Well, we're back
I
to
think
those.
that
Okay.
definitely was. I had to use that one again.
You say you used that one already, didn't you?
Was it on a
Callback.
Sunday? It was definitely a Sunday, Bloody Sunday for Bono.
I thought that was the day of his accident, the accident that killed his wife and daughter and made him lose his leg. So,
right?
That was a pretty.
Well, we're dropping Bono references, and then you got like all serious there for a second, talking about kids dying and shit. And I was like, wait a minute. Oh yeah, this movie.
So
yeah.
If they had like a moment where like Valentine and Bono got together and he said, "Our two hearts beat as one," I would have been very. That's an old U2 reference.
He would have been like, "Let's share our love to everyone who has iTunes."
God.
Instead, every time she like gets in a fight, he's like, "Whoa, Achtung, baby."
Oh my god, this is great.
I don't know many U2 references. The fact that I got that one in there, I'm very proud of.
Very good.
I mean, I figured that her dad was going to be her Uncle Ben figure, but he doesn't really motivate her the way that he motivates her brother. And I do want to talk about her brother as the primary antagonist here soon. But she needed something that would make her fun, because she is pretty craven. Like in the comics, from what I understand, that character is very much motivated by, she wants to be an actress and she just has the martial arts training. I don't know that this movie really delves into that at all. Not even a passing reference to, well, you know, I always wanted to be an actress, and so that's why I'm working at this cafe.
She says like, she does mention that a couple times. Like she does say that to her brother, and he even says like, "Hey, have you gotten like the acting gigs yet?" And she's like, "No, nothing's really come up yet." Like she has dropped out of school. So there's a passing reference, and she mentions a couple, like at one point, like Bono asks her, and I think it's a beautiful day when he asks her this. Like it's a really nice day out. Like he asks her this, like, where did you learn these moves? And she talks about like the form of martial arts it is, and how she learned it from her dad, and how her and her brother have both learned this.
Salat is the name of that state. It's very popular in Southeast Asia.
Right. And that's like a very important little nugget that she drops in, like, "Oh, it's my brother and I have both learned this form of martial arts." Because you're like, oh, the brother's the bad guy. As soon as they say that, because you're like, of course he is. I mean, you kind of see that coming from a mile away.
Is that when you knew that the brother was the bad guy?
Kind of had that idea, only because like he's the only other male in this movie, and you kind of know that the villain's going to be unveiled at some point. And I've seen how movies work, so you know,
you've seen a movie before.
Movies as formulaic as this one tends to be at times. Yeah,
but which is fine. Like you know what, like that's totally okay. I have zero problem with that.
People do it because it works.
Yeah, I have zero issue with it. Like that's not a problem for me. You know, so. All that kind of like, there are like passing references to it here. And you're right. I think because like a lot of the voice acting is so flat that it's pretty easy to gloss over. I did have a question. Were there moments where it was not dubbed? It did feel like at times, especially when it's Bono and Valentine, that they're not dubbing it, that they're actually speaking in English, and then everything else appears dubbed.
So I think since they're
Go ahead.
Oh, Steven, you have the definitive answer. I was just going to speculate based on other things.
Speculate wildly, and then I'll come in.
As someone who grew up on a healthy dose of mostly Italian horror and Western films, when you have someone who speaks English during filming, they do speak their lines in English. But if one person's dubbed, everybody's dubbed.
Okay.
And that's why it seemed like sometimes it matched up and sometimes it didn't with them, but you
Okay.
could always tell that they were speaking English. Because, like, in all the giallo films and all the spaghetti westerns, people like Clint Eastwood and any other English actor that they would get in there, they would perform their parts in English, even though the people speaking the other language would be speaking that other language, which that always seems so difficult to me, because if you don't know that language, how do you know when your line is? Like, is there somebody off screen going, okay, go?
Yeah.
There has to be, right?
Well, I mean, you could always do the Plan 9 thing that Tor Johnson would always just wait for the person to stop speaking, take a beat, and then say his line. And then the other people who didn't understand him, what he was saying, would just wait till he was done talking, take a beat, and then say their lines back. Like, very much like that. So Matthew Settle is the name of the actor that plays Bono. And he is an American actor. He's from... Where is he from? I think he's from like South Carolina or something. Like he's an actual American. He's been in like Band of Brothers, I think, is one of his most popular. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. U571. Like he's got some credits. This is the last movie he did. He's not done anything since.
Is he okay?
And I don't know. I honestly don't. Like,
I mean, like he's alive, right?
Yeah. Did he get Brandon Lead on set? Like, was he really getting shot?
I don't know.
That did kind of come out of nowhere, so I wouldn't be surprised. They're like, R.I.P. this actor, actually.
He is still alive. One thing I've noticed about this company is that they really like to get American actors that no one's really heard of or haven't really done anything, and try to like get them in
Kill them?
their movies. But no, this is
sport.
I mean, maybe
it's the most dangerous game, man.
This is his last credit on his IMDb page. Maybe he's just decided to retire, but though there's nothing about his personal life on here after 2011, which is when he divorced his wife, actress
this
and
movie
model.
Came out in 2017.
I know. Nominative. I said about his personal life. Yeah.
Did you just sing a Muppet song? What did you say?
No, Nominative.
Said Phenomena.
His actress model wife, best known for a role in You Don't Mess with the Zohan.
Somebody likes that movie. Who likes that? Somebody's trying to get me to watch that. It was you, Steven.
That's me. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna watch it then. All right.
I think it's a fun movie. One of Sandler's.
Isn't there like a director's cut of that is like superior to the?
There might be. I don't know which version I've seen, but there might be. I would watch the hell out of a director's cut. I had fun with the regular version, honestly. But
Steven just watches whatever version's on Zoo TV, so
pretty much, yeah. But yeah, Matthew Settle, he's from North Carolina. He's an American, but he actually, according to the credits of this movie, is voiced over by an actor named Christopher Waycamp. So he doesn't actually even do his own dubbing for this movie. Someone else dubs him in this movie, which I find hilarious, that you get an actual American actor in this movie and then just do not get him to read his own lines. Maybe he just wasn't available post-production. I have no idea what the issue was, but there were sometimes it felt like he was speaking Indonesian, like just from the way that the dub was syncing up with his actual lips and the way they were moving. I honestly couldn't tell, but I knew that he was being dubbed, and I'd never seen him in anything, so I can't really tell you what he sounds like in real life, but apparently it's not like this.
Word.
So yeah, that's what I can tell you about the dub. Tucker, when did you know that Umbra was the villain?
When it was revealed, and as soon as it was revealed, I thought, oh, My least favorite character in this movie is now a mother of the disappeared. Are these flying over your head now?
These
Am I
are,
getting too
yeah.
deep on the YouTube? I said Zoo
That one
TV and no one
flies over my
reacted.
head.
Like,
That one
okay,
flew over my head.
all right, I'll
You're
dial it
making
back.
those
Sorry,
those cuts a little too deep. Shallow those up a bit, buddy.
I'll dial it back. Sorry, I've gone too far. No, I didn't. I like I said, it was very hard. I did my best, and I honestly tried my hardest to pay attention to this movie, but it was very difficult. And I don't want to say I missed a lot of stuff, but my brain just glossed over a lot of things. So when they revealed that, I was like, oh, I probably should have known that, but nah, it was news to me.
So the comic convention of naming characters very obvious things really bit this movie in the ass when it came to the reveal. And it's a Silver Age thing where you name like a villain like Rainbow Raider, something like Roy G. Bigelow, or a guy named the Riddler, Edward Nigma. Like you just name them something very obvious and some like a pun on their name, basically. And so when in the first scene you've got a villain named Shadow who's, you know, killing these rich people, and then in the very next scene you introduce her to her brother, and her brother's first name is Umbra, I immediately go, that guy's a bad guy, because Umbra
What's
is the Latin
Umbra
word for
mean?
shadow.
Oh, I don't know Latin. It's a dead language.
Okay, here's why I know that Umbra means shadow.
It's important though for understanding where words come from. So yeah, Latin is rad. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I minored in Greek in college, so Latin, not even a language I know extensively. I just know bits and pieces. But the reason I know that Umbra is Latin for shadow is because there's a character in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, or not League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, sorry, Legion of Superheroes in DC Comics called Umbra, and her entire thing is that she can manipulate shadows. That's her whole power set. So that's why I knew that. But I was just immediately, that guy's the bad guy. And I was right. So
yeah,
but yeah, it comes from a mile away. And I think if you understand comics conventions in any like this movie plays into its tropes in a way that both feels respectful and obvious. Like it balances that line, I think, very well.
This is a very comic book movie in a way that comic books aren't anymore. Like comic books now aren't the comic books we grew up with. Right. As a matter of fact, like it's a problem that like comic books now almost feel like they're being created to churn out material for future movies. There aren't really any one-off, like 1 or 2 issue stories anymore. Everything is like a 6 to 12 issue arc.
Yep.
If it's not something that's interconnected with a half dozen other titles.
Correct.
In order to funnel stuff to get created for a larger, if not just one character series of movies, to get funneled towards a larger, broader cinematic universe. And that's a real issue with comic books. Like when you think about we need to be able to create like new fans, it's very hard to create new fans, especially younger readers, when the point of entry, number one, is very expensive. Like a comic book now is, I don't even think it's even $5. I think it's like $6-7 for a new issue. Like it's crazy expensive.
I would not be surprised. I've not bought comics in years for that reason.
It was like $3.75 last time I bought a comic book.
It's a lot. And I'm some of the in 1989 when Tim Burton's Batman was coming out. I remember buying like Batman 400 for maybe like $1.
And for the next $1,
yeah, for the next 10 years, like being an avid Batman reader, and then like buying like the Ultimate Spider-Man run for the first like 100 or so issues, and then buying like a lot of the Ultimate Universe stuff for a lot of issues, and like Dan Jurgens on Superman.
Side note, can I ask you, just because I never get a chance to ask people this, what did you think of Ultimate Iron Man, the solo series? Did you read that?
Ultimate Iron Man.
That's the Warren Ellis one, right?
Yeah. Where he's blue. He's a blue kid, and he's like...
Not much, because I don't remember reading it. I remember reading the Ultimates.
Two trades. I have the 2 trades. Well, and they do kind of hint towards his origins and stuff in the Ultimates, but the dedicated series is really interesting. It's kind of an outlier in the Ultimates universe too. It kind of stands on its own.
I don't think I read Ultimate Iron Man.
It's good. I recommend it.
I read Ultimate Cap. I definitely read all of the Peter Parker Ultimate Spider-Man, and then did not read it after they killed him off, because I'm like, why would you kill off Ultimate Peter Parker?
Oh, but the art was so cool after
with
that.
Mark Bagley.
Bagley's
fuck
so
Mark
good.
Bagley. Bagley's the worst. I grew up with Bagley, and he can suck a fuck. He's the worst comic artist ever. Everything he does is just like an affront to my eyes.
Tucker coming in fucking hot.
Sorry, Mark Bagley, I'm sure, is a wonderful human being, but like I said, I grew up on that motherfucker, and then I had to suffer through all his shit on Ultimate Spider-Man, and when they changed artists, finally, I was like, oh, thank God.
How do you really feel?
I cannot stand the art of Mark Bagley.
Can you
Tucker,
go
I'm gonna need you to just maybe take another shot or something, but you are coming in so fucking hot right now.
Hey, you hit a sore subject, because everybody loves Mark Bagley, and I don't get it. Okay. It's some of the most offensive shit I've ever seen in my life.
See, I feel that way about Chris Bacalo, but I'm not even coming in that hot. I just like, I don't care for it.
So tying this back into Valentine, which is perfectly fine. Like, this to me is like a throwback to like 80s and 90s comics, and really 70s comics in a way. Like not to the, like, when I say Dennis O'Neil, I don't mean to the quality of like Dennis O'Neil's writing, or like George Perez is an artist, so I apologize. I'm getting but like that kind of writing where it's like we can do like 1 or 2 issues and be in and get out, basically.
Telling stories for limited windows, knowing that people might come on and off the book depending on how they feel about the character.
And these are like very, very simple stories. That is what this is a throwback to, and geared towards like a younger audience right here. Like, and there's a lot, and that can lead to some problems. For example, like the plot logic of like, you're supposed to be filming this for a movie, yet there are no other actors. There seems to be no script. There's no other overhead. All you have is like a 1995 style camcorder that runs off via VHS. Like, all of your best footage is security camera footage from other stores.
And your lead cameraman is a fashion designer who really has no business holding a camera, as evidenced by the first scene after he films anything.
Or designing fashion either. Honestly.
Who is every horrific queer stereotype.
Oh my God.
It is offensive.
It is
offensive.
Deeply offensive. His hair kind of reminds me of
his hair was dope.
Of your boy Meshack Taylor in Mannequin a little bit.
Looks a little bit like Shinsuke Nakamura from the WWE a little bit.
Oh, there you go.
No one else knows who I'm talking about.
Everybody loves the wrestling. People love wrestling.
So it's a lot like that. And the villains are very simple. The henchmen are very simple. The motives are very simple. Like, it's very pure in that regard. It's a lot of green screen. The effects, let's face it, like the special effects are poor. The CGI is poor.
Agreed.
To the point where you're almost like, let's not even do them. Like, really, you'd be better off if you didn't even attempt those things.
Just skip the scene and have somebody tell us about it later. Like, that would be better, honestly.
Right. Or you could have like the chase scene. You could have like the chase scene and not have like your henchwomen dropping these awful grenades out the window that have these like terrible CGI explosions.
They're supposed to be like the Green Goblin pumpkin bombs, and they've all got little smiley faces on them.
Just don't do it.
I swear they used the same shot of cosplay girl throwing the bomb out like 5 times.
Yeah.
They use that same shot over and over and over, and I love it.
I remember that part because it was when I had to turn it down because I was trying to sleep. I was like,
right. Because what I was
like, oh, why do you get so loud all of a sudden? Ugh.
Well, what's unfortunate about that is like the actual fight between the actual stunt work that's being done And the fight like in the van is like not terrible for a low budget action movie, like jumping in between both fans and going back and forth. Like that's not the worst thing in the whole world. Like it's actually not too terrible.
Right.
I agree with you. The choreography and the stunts are fantastic. It's just the way that it's shot and edited that just takes the piss out of it.
Yeah.
Like you can tell people worked hard on the physical aspects of this movie, but the way it's presented just makes it worthless.
Yeah,
worthless
there's is a little bit harsh, but
to
like,
me,
I get what you're saying.
In from my perspective, straight up worthless.
There are some scenes where the editing kind of makes it feel like all the characters are fighting underwater, which is kind of a bummer. The two fight scenes I really, really loved. The cage match sequence where she's fighting the guys in the cage. And there's a shirtless henchman just shows up out of nowhere. Like she's fighting the guy with all the face paint. And then all of a sudden there's a second guy without a shirt. And I'm like, how'd this guy get here? I don't know. Doesn't matter. We're going to fight. And then the scene with her versus the three henchmen who have pretty much dispatched everybody the entire movie. Like the scene at the prince's speech where they take on all the bodyguards. She takes out like two at a time and then walks over to a third one who's holding a gun and then disarms that guy. And I'm like, why is this guy not trying to take a shot? Like he's just standing there with a gun waiting to be disarmed. Like, come on, guy, just like do something, please.
Right.
But no, I mean, there are some really, really good actions. And I mean, the Indonesian film industry, like the actors from The Raid and The Raid 2, I believe, are Indonesian. And so, I mean,
that's exactly the movie I was thinking of.
Yeah, I like that movie.
Yeah.
That movie was good as hell.
Very inspired by that kind of, I mean, and that's the kind of action that I think that's the standard for a lot of these Indonesian films, which the Indonesian film industry is like picking up momentum within their own country and starting to export a lot of their stuff. This movie, though, based on the release schedule of it, the fact that it literally stumbled out of the gate, and then it took them almost a year and a half to even get the movie re-released, and then when it started to drop it, they just like fuck it and put it out on Blu-ray. Like that's kind of the legacy of this movie is this, and the marketing apparently was very bad. Like from what I've read on social media, what I've been able to translate off of Skylar Pictures' Instagram is that the marketing for this movie wasn't great. So like the whole movie felt like it was rushed into production and then just tripped out of the gate.
No.
Like we say at the beginning of every episode, fell flat on their face after the first film.
Yep.
This feels like a textbook definition of a movie that fell flat on its face right out of the gate.
And there's a kernel of a good idea. This idea of like, what if we accidentally created a superhero by wanting to drum up publicity for a movie, and we inadvertently create a superhero, and it's just not written in that way. And again, I don't know if it's translation, because it just feels like you're just going to keep going out there and fighting crime. And that's what she just does.
Right.
She becomes a crime fighter. And it's never really discussed like how there's a transition. It just kind of is. But that's a really fascinating idea. And you get these shots of persons like watching her do this in this idea. And we see these in American films as well. Like everybody gathered around their monitor or their phones or their tablet. And you're like, look at this like hot new thing taking off. Like everybody is like really into this. Everybody's gathered around. It's like, or you go all the way back to like Christian Slater and Pump Up the Volume. Everybody is turning into like, is it like DJ Horndog? I can't remember. Is it Harry Horndog? I haven't seen that movie in so long. I just remember.
Hold on, I'll look it up.
But like everybody is like tuning into that. Like everybody's like plugged in. Like this is what we're into right now. There's like a kernel of like a really good idea for this, but it's just like you said, rushed. It's not quite fleshed out enough. We needed another pass at this script. We needed like one more go at it in order for it to really be ironed out. But it's unfortunate that's just kind of not what they're going for. Right. We have like a costume. We have like a young woman that can fill that costume, that can fight. We have a couple people that can like fight against her. We have like some backstory with all these comics. Happy Harry Hardon. Thank you, Steven.
No problem.
So that's all we really need. Who cares about the rest? Like, there's just not enough thought that goes into it. And now, love them or hate them, and I'm not a huge comic book movie person. I'm not someone that's going to go rush out to the theaters for one anymore. Honestly, unless it's a Batman movie. And I'll go see, like, when James Gunn's new Superman movie comes out, I will go right away and cross my fingers and, like, please give me some of that Christopher Reeve nostalgia. Like, let me just, please give me a little bit of that rush. I'll cross my fingers for that.
Right.
Other than that, like, I'm not rushing out for a superhero movie anymore. If you are, like, God love you, if that's your thing, yeah, that's cool. It's just not for me.
And I'm on record as being right where you are, just kind of disillusioned with the whole superhero thing these days.
Yeah, that's fine. That's not what this movie is. But now, like, there are persons out there that put a lot of time and energy and effort, almost too much so. Like, it's kind of like come to like hurt some of these movies. Like, hey, in order to watch this movie, you need to do a lot of homework. You need to watch these 3 series, watch these 2 movies, and read these 5 articles in order to make this movie make sense. And I don't want to invest that much of my time and energy before I go to a movie.
Life is short.
Yeah.
Who's got time?
I don't.
Not me. No, I'm 100% with you. And I think that's part of why it is a bad movie. It is not good. I will not say this is a well-made film, but the parts of it I enjoyed are the parts that kind of were the ones that were riffing on the Batman tropes from the Burton and Schumacher films, from the Adam West series. Like, I feel like it riffs on every era of Batman at least once over the course of the film. And I really enjoyed that. And I enjoyed, again, just like the throwback, like you said, like the throwback nature of the thing. Like, it feels like something from the Silver or the Bronze Age of comics put on a screen in a way that is interesting. Like, there's a sense of the earnestness, as opposed to like the detached irony of the 90s that's kind of permeated so much of culture. I was been talking to my partner lately. Just I'm kind of done with detached irony. Like, I want to be able to like something. Like, when did we stop liking things because we liked them? Why did we have to start enjoying things because
we stopped?
It's funny. Well, maybe you didn't, but I think a lot of people have.
Oh,
like,
yeah, no, fuck that. That's why I can't stand Letterboxd, because it's not reviews. It's just who can say the funniest thing about this movie.
I mean,
and that's annoying as shit. Because maybe there should be a website for making funny comments about movies, but this is a website for reviewing films.
There used to be. It was called Twitter, and then a billionaire bought it and tanked it. So yeah,
Letterboxd
Twitter
isn't
always
necessarily.
Don't fool yourself.
Letterboxd isn't necessarily a review site, though. I mean, Letterboxd can be a review site. Can also just be a way to kind of keep track of. Like, I use it to kind of like keep track of what I'm watching and maybe put some thoughts down, but it's not necessarily reviews for me.
Right.
Although there are some people I follow and I'll look at like what are their thoughts on this. And for some people, like, it depends on the personality of that person. Like, it doesn't, to me, it's like a very broad thing. And if there are people that are more pithy and make kind of comments that I don't like, the nice thing is I don't have to follow them.
Right.
You know?
Well, see, my problem is that the only people I do follow is Steven and Brett. So basically, if I go to Letterboxd, I'm either looking at one of their reviews or I'm looking up a movie to see what people said about it.
Yeah.
And most likely it's the latter.
Okay.
So that's why I run into a lot of problems, because I'll be like, wow, this has this average rating? That's not what I would have thought. Let me look at the reviews, and they're all like, meme.
Yeah. I guess, I don't know. I don't know who you follow, or you said you don't follow people.
You need to
Just
follow
Steven and
Mike.
Brett, that's it.
Follow Mike.
I would, yeah, I guess I would like look at. So Steven's in a crime zone.
I mean, I do live in Chicago.
Shit's
No,
going down, dude.
no, I live on I live off of a couple of very busy streets, and it apparently all the emergencies have been happening today because
Sure.
on any given day there's a lot of this, but there've
Yeah.
been
It's
like
the
at
first
least
of the month.
3 fire trucks on my street
Yeah.
today.
So I think I do agree with you that there is a part of the culture that like everything is served up with a sense of like who can be the loudest, who can be the most obnoxious, who can make their voice heard. And sometimes it's like, and being funny is hard. I
is?
try to be funny.
No, JK.
And sometimes I'm successful and sometimes it falls flat on its face. But like in general, like I have tried stand-up comedy and I was okay. But I would do stand-up comedy with people that were really, really, really good. And I looked at what it took for those people to be really good and knew that I didn't have it in me to put that kind of work into the craft. And I'm like,
Right.
I'm not going to, because I have a lot of respect for stand-up comedy. Like I love stand-up comedy as an art form. I'm like, I'm not going to sully this art form because I know that I cannot put this kind of effort into it that they do. I'm going to step away from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
And some people like get to be known by just being the loudest and most outraged people. Like I am going to be performatively outraged. And they turn everything about whatever their cause du jour is. And it's like, how can you talk about this when this thing is going on right now? It's like, man, I'm just talking about how much I like Sour Patch Kids. Didn't expect to be talking about Gaza right now. It's like, I was just upset that my favorite flavor of Sour Patch Kids were out. It's like, yeah, Gaza is terrible, but I just wanted a snack.
Yeah, I was just trying to.
Of course, I'm upset about that.
I'm just trying to shout into the ether about a thing that I'm thinking about in this moment. You don't need to respond to everything that everyone says. It's okay. And I think performative outrage is just as bad as detached irony in a lot of ways. Like it's just that kind of, because it does. It all kind of feels a little performative. You know, it all kind of feels like we're putting on a show. And I feel like the people sometimes shouting the loudest are the people that care the least.
And we can be upset about many things at once. We don't have to necessarily discuss them all the time,
right?
Every single waking moment of the day, because it's not healthy.
Sometimes we need a break.
Yeah, we need to take care of ourselves.
I agree with you, but I think there is an opposite to that as well. I think a lot of people nowadays, especially men of our age, are a little too deep into escaping the real world and not dealing with the issues that are going on. You know what I mean? I
do.
And I think you kind of have to. I think in some ways, you kind of have to. You got to find that good middle ground.
Yeah, all things need a balance. You're not incorrect. I would not argue that you're incorrect. But I don't know that if I've ever convinced somebody to find my way of thinking by shouting at them and telling them they're terrible. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? I don't think I've ever been convinced like, hey, you've just told me I'm a complete piece of shit and I'm terrible. Now I see where you're coming from. And
it all makes sense now.
No argument ever made on social media has convinced anyone of anything. No. That's kind of what I go with, but yeah.
So tell me more, and I get mad at people. I mean, I get upset. I get angry.
You're human.
Things, So Valentine.
Right. Is that what we're here to talk about? Wild. No, I'm not going to go and say that this is like a masterpiece of cinematic achievement. It is on its, and maybe it's that I went in with such low expectations for this, but I did find myself enjoying it. Like I was not I was not ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater on this one. I was able to find things that I enjoyed, and do I have my problems with it? Yes. Are they many? Yes. But at the end of the day, like, I can still have a good time with something, even if I know it's bad. Like, I will recognize, I'm the kind of person, I can recognize when something is bad, but also recognize that I enjoy it. And that's how I feel about this movie.
Mhm.
Is it a good movie? No. It honestly, it made me want to dig into more Indonesian superhero films. Like, there are other Indonesian superhero films out there, and I kind of want to get
Mhm.
into those. Like, there are 2 of them streaming on Tubi right now that I kind of want to get into, that are a part of the same cinematic universe. And I'm like, I want to check those out. So, like, I'm kind of into, like, maybe this one wasn't great, but maybe there are others out there doing it better, and I kind of want to see those. Like,
That's so odd. Like I said before, it's so strange how completely different we can perceive something, Stephen. Because this film, when I was finished with it, the only thing I was interested in was ripping my heart out of my rib cage with my bare hands and then throwing it on the floor and stomping on it until I die.
Weird Al.
Yes.
But and again, for me, I was just like, there's enough good in this thing that I would love to see someone try and do it a little better. So, again, it's not winning any. Tucker almost died.
I forgot to mute my mic when I took a shot, which is a mistake.
But I had a good enough time with it that I will be seeking out other Indonesian films, and I'm probably doing some other Indonesian action films as well. Like, I kind of dig what this was trying to do. Again, was it successful? No, not particularly, but successful enough that I like I told you over text, Tucker, baffled and intrigued in equal measure is kind of where I found myself at the end of this movie.
And let me reassure the listeners. I'm sure most of them know this, but as much as I disagree with Steven and think that this movie was a masterpiece of shit, um, I am really glad that you liked it, Steven. I'm glad that it sparked this interest for you to like explore some shit, because that's rad. I love going down rabbit holes like that. I fucking love that for you, dude. Just wanted to let you know.
Thank you.
Solid.
Solid as a rock. But yeah, no, like and if Skylar Pictures has announced a Volt movie based on their flagship character, they announced it in 2019, and nothing has happened with it yet. The co-creator of the character, Marcelino Lafront, who plays Volt in this movie, is also set to play him in the Volt movie whenever that comes out. But there has up to this point been absolutely zero mention of a Valentine sequel, and at this point it feels very unlikely that there ever will be. Again, this came out in 2017 or in 2017 initially, and then 2 years later came out in America. So it's been since 2019. It feels very unlikely that we're ever going to get that sequel.
Yeah.
Particularly given this company's long production history. If we do get it, this podcast will be dead in the water, I'm sure, by then, because they announced the Volt movie as early as 2013. They've been trying to make that. So, like, it's been it's been 10 years, and they still haven't started filming on that, as far as I know. So
10 years.
It's been a while. There's also apparently there's been a trailer on YouTube for 2 years for a TV series starring Donnie Alamsaya from The Raid as another character called Sakti that is still listed on Stro TV as upcoming. So no release date in sight. God only knows when that thing's going to be out, if it will be out at all. Like, this Skylar Pictures does not seem particularly interested in releasing content, just announcing content. So,
Hey, did either of you see the sequel to The Raid? Is it any good? I haven't seen the second one. I want to.
I
but...
heard it ups. I heard it's. I have not watched it, but I've heard it's incredible.
You should ask friend of the show Samuel Dumas. I know Sammy has probably seen it and loves it. Yeah, he'll give you an honest answer. He loves all that stuff. East Asian horror East Asian action is kind of his thing. So
that tracks, yeah.
Any final thoughts on Valentine before we move into the final section of our program?
It stinks.
Thank you, Jay Sherman. Mike, any final thoughts?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than I anticipated. Didn't have super high expectations going in for it. Said it's not the most particularly well-made movie. There's a lot of flaws in it. I think the lead has a fair amount of like fun charisma to her. And I think she has some real action chops.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the movie can skate by based on that.
Yeah, I'm definitely inclined to agree with you on that point. I had a fun time, and I think Estelle Linden is a big part of the reason why I enjoyed it to the extent that I did. I thought she was doing great work. She does a lot of work with Skylar Pictures, so there's a lot more of her work out there. I don't know how much of it is in English though, but I would not mind watching more of her work. I thought she did a great job. This movie, so there are like several release dates to contend with on this. Was released in Indonesia, like we said initially, on November 23rd, 2017, and then re-released in Indonesia in April of 2019, April 19th of 2019. And then on May 14th of 2019 was released on Blu-ray and DVD by Shout Factory. You can actually still buy that Blu-ray and DVD if you wish on Shout Factory's website. They still have it available, the US version of that film. I'm going to go with the second theatrical release, which is April 19th, 2019. And this is a top 5 that we have done before because it is the week. Number 1 opening this week is The Curse of La Llorona, which is a movie that we definitely covered on this podcast. I don't know if anyone remembers that movie or that we covered it, but it existed and we covered it. So yeah, Curse of La Llorona opened at number 1. In number 2, another superhero movie, Shazam. What did we think about Shazam? I like Shazam.
Like the first one.
The first one was fine enough. Yeah.
Haven't even
I didn't
bothered
hate
with
it.
the second one, honestly. Just
Have never seen a guy kick himself in the dick so much with negative PR.
Yeah. That's definitely the impression that I got after that one. Oof. In third place, a movie called Breakthrough that I have never heard of before. In fourth place, a little movie called Captain Marvel. Am I saying that right? After 7 weeks, that's earned over
that one.
400 million at the box office. I thought that one was pretty fun too. I still haven't seen the sequel. I'm gonna wait till that one drops on Disney Plus. Has it dropped on Disney Plus already? Have I just not watched it?
On the 7th.
Okay, so soon.
Yeah.
Okay. And then in fifth place, Little, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is a Tyler Perry film.
What's it called?
Little. It is not a Tyler Perry film. It is Tina Gordon.
Is it the prequel to Big? Possibly.
It is not. It's got Regina. It's got Regina Hall and Issa Rae.
Hooray!
In it. And I
like all of those people.
I like both those actresses very much. Tracy Ellis Ross in it also. I saw American Fiction a couple days ago, and Issa Rae and Tracy Ellis Ross are doing great work in that movie. I really enjoyed that film. Rounding out the top 10, you've got the Tim Burton Dumbo, the remake of Pet Sematary, Jordan Peele's Us, the Leica film Missing Link, and future episode of this podcast, Hellboy.
The one with Stranger Things guy.
Yeah, David Harbour.
That's his name.
Yeah. This film has absolutely no domestic box office to speak of. I absolutely could not find anything on the Indonesian box office either, and I looked. I can't find anything about the budget. Like, the finances for this movie are a mystery. If someone had told me that this was like a tax shelter, I would believe it. But I can say that it made $193,000 in domestic home video sales. And another $226,000 in domestic Blu-ray sales, for a total estimated domestic video sales of $419.5 thousand.
If I had to speculate, to me, this looks like a $7 million movie.
Okay. I buy that, actually.
One of my hidden talents.
This movie has no tomatometer score. It has no Metascore, so nothing on Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic. It does, however, have a Letterboxd score, and the Letterboxd score for this movie
Far too generous.
is 2.8. Mike, as our guest, how do you
How dare they
rate 2017's Valentine: The Dark Avenger?
I would sandwich it in between Last Temptation of Christ and Goodfellas.
So you're saying you like Goodfellas better than Last Temptation?
Oh, absolutely.
That's surprising. Okay, all right.
Really?
Okay. Yeah. I like Last Temptation better, but then I'm when it
You're
comes
one
to
of the
Scorsese,
few.
I like Scorsese when he's more out of his
When he's killing
comfort
Jesus.
zone, like stuff like Bringing Out the Dead, Cape Fear, Last Temptation. All of his other movies are great, but you can tell he's super, super comfy.
Cape Fear
like,
is very
so
comfortable.
easy.
No, Cape Fear is very comfortable.
Cape Fear, he's jumping right outside of every box he's ever been in his entire
no.
career, dude. Are you kidding me?
No. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Cape Fear is super comfortable. Are you kidding me? The main thing about Cape Fear is how
me, dude.
He's effortless. He's effortlessly making like a Hitchcock movie in Cape Fear.
He's out De Palma with Cape Fear for sure.
Totally.
I mean, that's
the thing. The thing about Cape Fear is like Cape Fear would be like someone else's like benchmark movie.
Yeah.
It would be like anybody else's like career high, and he just makes it like that. Shutter Island. He makes it look so effortless. It's almost embarrassing.
For Uncle Marty, that's a Tuesday.
Well, I think maybe I misspoke. I think there are some films in his filmography that kind of stand out as very, very different than the rest of it.
Yeah, it's not what he normally
things like
does.
Last Temptation, Cape Fear. Like I said, it's very, even the way it's shot, the pacing of it, like it's so different than the rest of it.
He turned down Schindler's List to do Cape Fear.
Yes,
if I recall. He's
true.
like, I'll do, which probably the right call, because I don't think who am I to? I think that like
Scorsese, he would have nailed it, but would it have meant as much as it did as it did coming from Spielberg?
Probably not.
I
mean, and that's something that's a discussion they weren't having in the 90s, but that's not really his story to tell.
Yeah.
So I think
Spielberg, I think that might have those two guys, that probably was part of the discussion, honestly.
Yeah.
And I feel like those two guys swap films all the time. Like those guys are two people that are like very good friends and constantly talking and are like, I don't want to do this, I'm working on this. And Spielberg's like, I'd really like to do this, but I'm developing this. And like, you want to swap? Spielberg also feels like one of those guys who's got like 10 movies in the hopper at any given moment.
And he had 10 movies in the Hooper, and he would kick Hooper off a Poltergeist set, direct Poltergeist. And now you're going to have the Poltergeist guy come on your show and get very mad at you. Because every time you suggest that Tobe Hooper didn't direct Poltergeist, there's a dude who runs like the Poltergeist social media account, gets very angry. And he comes up out of nowhere and he gets
I think you and I actually had this conversation on one of the Texas Chainsaw episodes. I think it was Texas Chainsaw 2.
Like,
you and I had this and you were like, no, that was Spielberg. And I was like, I disagree. And we were just because
it's
you
a
and
lot
our friends,
of Spielberg. Watch the end of Poltergeist and you tell me if that's not. I mean, dude, guy rips off his face a la Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's so much Spielberg. And okay, Tobe Hooper directed Poltergeist with Steven Spielberg standing over his shoulder, giving him a lot of instruction.
And I will concede that. But I think they had the kind of relationship where Hooper was open. Yeah. I think Hooper was open to his suggestion because he knew how successful Spielberg was.
Absolutely.
Right? And so he was willing to, maybe to a fault, implement a lot of his suggestions in a way that someone like Joe Dante probably wouldn't.
Of course,
to hear them tell it was more of a collaboration. It wasn't like...
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, 2 stars on Valentine.
2 stars on Valentine. And
2 stars.
Yeah. And I think that's fair. Given your criticisms of the movie and what you enjoyed about it, I think that's absolutely fair. Tucker, what about you?
Which means Last Temptation of Christ is 1.5 stars, apparently.
Fucking hell. You're killing me, man.
I'm kidding.
You're killing me now.
I'm kidding. I love Last Temptation of Christ.
No, Last Temptation's amazing. We did a Patreon episode on that one a while back. So
I don't think that was going to be a franchise. You can only kill Jesus once.
no, that was
You
an Oops
cannot
All
kill Jesus
Christianity
in a
Corner
franchise
episode.
of movies.
No, that was for our Patreon only Oops All
Okay.
Christianity Corner, where I go off on Christian shit and Tucker and Brett ask me questions about it. It's fun. Tucker, what did you give Valentine? Need I even ask?
Well, I do not believe in Valentine the Dark Avenger, but pans down to hatchet, I do believe in this. No stars.
Wow. Whereas I'm with you, Mike. I gave it 2 stars myself. So
yeah,
I think it's a 2-star film, and I liked it. I had a good time with it. Is it good? No, but it kind of makes me want to dig deeper. So I'm excited for that prospect for sure.
Also, what my wife says to me when I'm giving her the best 38.
Giving her the business.
Was it good? No. Does it make me want to dig deeper? No.
No.
Oh God, Mike. Wife. Happy Valentine's Day. We love. No, I mean I think one of the first things you ever said when you came on the show, and I bring this up a lot because it stuck with me, and I find it absolutely hilarious. I asked you if you had any plans for Valentine's Day. Do you remember your response, Mike?
Butt stuff.
You were basically like, I don't know, anal.
Yeah.
And I just that stands as like a top 5 Mike Snoonian memory for me. And we've been on a lot of podcasts together since then.
We really
that remains up there. So, Mike, God, I love you. I love having you on. You're such a joy always. I love your insights, man. Anytime I get to talk with you is a good time. Tell the people, man. Pod and the Pendulum. What's going on? What else have you got in the hopper? Like, let us know, man.
So the Pod of the Pendulum, if you haven't listened, we are a show that covers horror movie franchises. And the goal with our show, like when we cover a franchise, we do one movie start to finish and then just go along till we finish a franchise. So if there's 10 movies in a series, you'll get 10 episodes, sometimes more if it's like one of the tentpole movies.
Something very totemic.
Yeah, like
Frankenstein.
We did a couple on Frankenstein, a couple on Bride of Frankenstein. And the goal with it is like by the time we're done a series is that you can put that series to bed and say, if I never listen to another episode on this movie, I've gotten everything I need out of it. And I think with the crew that we have right now, with Steven being part of that crew, with Rachel, with Ariel, with Devon, with Brian, with Jessica, with Nicole, I don't believe I'm missing anybody.
I've met some of those
8 of
people.
Us now.
Yeah, we've had several of them on as guests, actually. Yeah.
Everybody brings a really unique voice to the show. Everybody has their strengths. I do the show gets an amazing crew of people to talk to with every week. And over the past 5 years, I am so proud of what this show has become. We've had like 225 or so episodes in the can. And I don't say this lightly. We're a little indie show that has kind of grown and grown and grown. We're not the biggest show in the world, but we've got a nice following. I would put our show against any of the big ones that are on networks and have like marketing and larger sites behind them that, can have people that can focus on those things for them. I will put what we do against any of those shows. Because I think we have the best damn horror podcast in the goddamn world when it comes to covering things from start to finish. And it's due to the crew we have. And I don't say that lightly, and I usually would not say something like that. I think when we cover something, we cover it really, really well. So the Pod and the Pendulum is my little baby. So I would encourage folks, especially the Frankenstein series, go and listen to it. Go and listen to our Saw series. I feel like we've really, really nailed it. So yeah, check that out wherever you get your podcasts. And then later this year, we've kind of had a soft announcement of it. Rebecca McCallum. I almost said the wrong name, so please edit this. So later this year, Rebecca McCallum, who is does Talking Hitchcock, and I would say is one of the foremost Alfred Hitchcock scholars out there. She's asked me to take part in this project called, it's funny you mentioned Tobe Hooper, called Off the Hook, which is going to be a 2-year project where we dissect the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 74 seconds at a time. So we're going to be watching 74 seconds of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, dissecting just that part of the movie each episode. And we are going to be, I think, why are we doing it that way? Because we're fucking crazy.
And because the movie came out in 1974.
Because it came out in 1974. So you've
And
already
because
recorded
everything's
the
been
movie.
done, so we're getting desperate, guys.
And she is one of the most intelligent women I know, like to the point where her intelligence frightens me. Trying to keep up with her is a little bit intimidating, and I don't get intimidated often. So it is a real challenge. We've recorded a few episodes. We'll be posting them later this year. So definitely stay tuned for that. But I'm really excited because it's a much different challenge to try to find something to talk about for like an hour at a time about like this short of a movie. I'm sorry, this short of a section of a movie, but it's also like really, really cool. So I'm pretty excited.
I'm excited to hear that one.
Yeah.
I having been on a couple of the Texas Chainsaw episodes of Pod and the Pendulum, I know your affection and affinity, particularly for that first movie, and I'm really excited to hear you guys dig into that for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly, Mike, Pod and the Pendulum, I've told you before, is before I was even on it, my favorite horror podcast.
Oh.
Because of the depth. I feel like every time you come on, I have to like just sing your praises because you're such a mensch. If we have any following at all, it's because of you, and because of the exposure that I mean, I would say probably 75% of our listener base probably comes over from Pod and the Pendulum. But like you you took a chance on a guy you'd never met before and said, yeah, come on our show. And then when I said, hey, you want to come on mine? You're like, yeah, absolutely. Why not? And you've consistently said yes. And, to the point where you just like let me on your show whenever I want to talk about whatever I want. Yeah. Like, it's an honor to be a part of like that level of esteemed company every time. Like it just, you've put together quite a crew. You're such an incredible guy. And if people are not listening to your podcast, they are crazy. Cause again,
that part I appreciate.
I agree with you because I think Pod and the Pendulum is my favorite horror podcast. And it's one that I love going back to consistently. So,
well, I really like listening to this show. I've really this is one that's in my rotation that I get to listen to. I really enjoy, and I'll mention like, hey, I really like the Flash episode.
Yeah.
I don't get where Tucker is coming from on the original Black Christmas because that movie is a masterpiece.
Me either.
Like I was like getting angry at at you and Brett like listening to the show, but that's a good show when you can like listen to it in one engage.
Well, and if I can mention for anybody who's not listened to that episode, Brett and I also, after discussing it, we swear to rewatch it because we are convinced that we just need to watch it again. Because like if you remember, the more we talk about it, we're like, how did we not like this? Is an amazing movie. How did we not like this? We've got to watch this again.
Margot Kidder,
that was our
1970s.
consensus.
Margot Kidder is like the quintessential woman of the 70s.
Olivia Hussey in that movie.
So you guys have built a following because like you consistently put on like a great show every week. And you've like built that over time, and I love that. But like I get to work with really good people every week, and I really enjoy it, and it's fun, and that's why I do a show.
I get to work with a couple of assholes.
Yeah, you really do. Must be hard for you.
It's difficult, but somehow I pull through.
I mean, the thing he's not telling you is that we put up with him too. So
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, they put up with me editing and distributing.
So
and
when you're done,
the music, so much to put up with.
Do you just go yell at the 2-year-old after and be like, "What's wrong with you?"
No, dude, we're best friends. What are you talking about? That's fun. That's my.
Does he write rap songs about juice?
We're working on it, man. I'm getting him there.
I was gonna say Tucker's gonna lay down those tracks when he does. When he's ready for it, Tucker will put those down for sure.
Yeah.
I will also tell listeners that if you like hearing the sound of my voice, Definitely check out some of those Frankenstein episodes. I'm on 2 as of I think the Frankenstein meets the Wolfman episode will have just come out earlier this week as of the release of this episode. And then I was also on the Bride of Frankenstein episode. And at present, I am planning to be on the Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein episode as well.
No.
To talk about that fun movie that I love. So definitely check out that series. And of course, the research that Brian and Mike are bringing to the table week after week on that is impeccable. I've been watching along with them and just discovering new things about that franchise that I never knew. So definitely worth your time to check out. I encourage all of our listeners to do it.
So did you know the Frankenstein's monster isn't actually called Frankenstein?
Wait,
that's
really?
the kind of research we will get.
Wait, may I offer a counterpoint?
No.
So
sure.
This monster that Dr. Frankenstein has created, it's a new life, right? Like, it's cobbled together from different parts and everything, and it's a new life that he's creating, right? So technically, like, maybe the monster is his son, or at least kind of his offspring, his creation. So maybe this monster is Frankenstein. Does he have a first name?
Agree.
Maybe not, but like, he's still technically a Frankenstein. He's a motherfucking Frankenstein.
So this is where I differ. Is it really a new life? Because he's not creating a brain from scratch. He's actually taking someone else's brain. And that brain has all of, if the memories are where the brain lives, it does. The brain is where our memories live.
I feel like I don't know this because I'm not a doctor nor am I a brain scientist.
Do the memories get wiped out when we pass?
As someone who doesn't believe in the soul, we're speaking of this very medically and scientifically, right? When you die, once the electricity stops moving through your brain, once that life force leaves, like, is that stuff in there? Does it even really exist in the first place? Or is it like a byproduct of this organ that's in your head?
Mm-hmm.
And once you die, it stops producing or retaining that, like, whatever it is.
Well, that's like one of the ethical questions that,
like, you draw on the thing and then it's, there you go. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
It's one of the ethical questions that Ghost of Frankenstein touches on and then runs far away from.
I was going to say not enough in my
opinion, that's too bad.
Right. Where they, at one point, like, the evil doctor is like, you can't dissect and kill this creature. Like, it's a living creature. It has a life of its own. To kill it would be murder. And then it's never addressed again. You know, but it's like actually kind of fascinating. Like, no, like, this is whether or not we created this quote unquote monster, it is a living creature and we bear it some responsibility. You can't just kill it. Like,
well, I'm sure I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike.
That's kind of as far as I wanted to take that thought.
Well, I was going to say, they probably go into that in somewhat the existential crisis of it all in Andy Warhol's Frankenstein. You guys are covering that too with the rest of it.
No, we're just doing the Universal.
Fuck. Nobody wants to touch that one. Somebody do a podcast on Andy Warhol's Frankenstein.
Put it as a straight up, dude. Put it as a straight up. We'll cover it on this podcast.
You bunch of chickens.
I mean, you could do it here.
What, here right now? All right, let's talk about it. So, guys, Andy Warhol's Frankenstein. You guys seen this? You heard about this? You seen this?
I have not seen it.
Nor I.
It's pretty far out there. Episode over. Reprise the theme song and roll the credits.
I was going to say, Mike is a therapist too, so I'm going to defer to him on brain stuff. So that guy,
I
knows what he's talking about.
I don't know.
I did not have that context. I apologize.
No. That's where I once you die, I have no idea what happens inside of your brain. I mean, that is, I don't know. You zap it with electricity. Does that wake your? I think, like, that's what I wrestle with when I watch Frankenstein. Like, is it your own? Are you really creating new life from scratch? Because you have all these, like, stitched together parts. So that is, or are you just kind of like recreating an old life again? That's one of the fascinating things.
I think in the context of horror film tropes as well, the fact that you are also introducing parts from other beings,
you're right,
even though that's not something I believe in real life, in horror films, like that might influence it too. Like, you know, you see the movies where it's like he got the hand of a killer, so now he's straight up killing people because he got a hand transplant.
Idle hands, yeah.
Like, so you kind of have to.
Yeah.
That didn't happen in that movie, Steven. That's why you need to see it, so you don't sound dumb on a podcast.
Dude, I
That's why-
have a podcast. I always sound dumb on a podcast. What are you talking about? That's
You
what
need
I
to see that
do.
movie, though, Steven.
Anyway, Mike, where can the people find you and the Pod and the Pendulum on the social medias?
You can find me at, you can find the Pod and the Pendulum at podandthependulum.com. You can find us at Pod and Pendulum on Twitter, Pod and the Pendulum on Instagram. You can find me at Letterboxd at Mike Chump Change.
Right on.
Where I don't usually make pithy comments on movies. If I review a movie, I do it straight up. I every now and then make funny comments though.
Yeah, I mean,
You do,
But they're good funny comments.
I was going to say they're actually funny,
warranted probably too.
Yeah.
What was your handle on the
Mike
Letterboxd?
Chump Change, all one word.
Yeah, I was going to say it's the same as his handle in the Zencaster meeting now.
Oh, sweet.
And we are the Disenfranchised Podcast. You can follow us on the socials of your choice at Disenfranch Pod. We're on, I think, active on Blue Sky, Letterboxd, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube right now. Find us in all those places. Wherever you get your podcast, please leave us a nice 5-star rating and review, particularly if you are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The algorithm likes that and will disperse us to more ears similar to your own. And we do truly, truly appreciate that. You can also head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/disenfranchpod, where you can find just so many podcasts that we've recorded, including the aforementioned episode of Upsal Christianity Corner on Martin Scorsese's with Last Temptation of Christ. You can also find our most recent episode of Unenfranchised on one of Tucker's darlings, The Rage: Carrie 2 from
Already a
1999.
Already a patron favorite. People comment and liking this motherfucker like it's the new dance, like it's the twist, Steven.
Sure, we'll go with that. One person comments and it's the whole world. So yeah, that works.
But the comment was so positive and so validating, Steven.
I know. I definitely understand. It was
so validating.
Quite the comment.
It filled my heart. Like all the way up.
I read that comment and I was like, well, there's gonna be no living with him after this, is what I thought.
Yay. The Rage Carrie 2 is valid.
It's something. And yeah, so that's where you can find us and all of our things. Shoot us an email, disenfranchpod@gmail.com, if there is a failed franchise starter you would like to see us cover coming up. Later this month, we've actually got a listener request coming through, and then we've got another one popping in next month as well, mainly because we didn't do any last year. So we're doing a couple of them right out of the gate this year. I'm your host, Stephen Foxworthy. You can find me on Instagram, Blue Sky, Letterboxd at Chewy Walrus. Tucker, where can we find you on socials these days?
Oh, hi, it's me, Tucker, and you can find me on Instagram and YouTube at ICE909. That's ICENINE, the number 0 and the number 9. Also on Instagram is the world famous Tuck Mugs page. That's Tuck_mugs. You know what? We've been pumping out content lately, like more consistently than we have been pretty much since the beginning of the project.
Correct.
Okay. We've had 3 guest mugs in a row. And today, time of recording, which is Friday, February 2nd, we dropped a brand new standard ass Tukey post. Because I got a new mug. You guys got a new mug.
The first one of 2024, I think.
So go to Instagram, look up Tuck_mugs, follow that motherfucker, and check out my mugs and the mugs of my friends.
And if you want to submit a guest mug, just shoot that mug with a description of the mug, where you got it, and what you have in it to disenfranchpod@gmail.com, and it'll be put into consideration.
Now, some guest mugs have come unsolicited through messaging on Instagram, and I'm all for that too, Steven. So if you're on Instagram and you want to just shoot us a message with your submission, like I can't imagine we'd ever like decline a submission. I feel like I just put a challenge out there.
I was going to say that falls into your purview, not mine.
Can't believe I've done this. Well, no, actually, I don't actually run the page, Steven. I just curate the content, man. I got a
But that's
social
what I mean.
media manager,
As curator, that falls under your purview, though.
Oh shit, you're right. Well, yeah, just text me if anybody puts anything really gross on there or something.
I always do.
Spoilers, Steven's my social media manager.
Hi, hello. I'm the staff that he goes on and on about from week to week. It's me. It's just me.
I just thought of so many dirty jokes that I just can't pick one right now. Steven, you've really, wow.
Yeah.
Well done. I'm done now. Wow.
And if you miss Brett Wright, then check out him on we constantly check him out on Instagram and Letterboxd at sus_warlock or on Blue Sky at suswarlock _. And just tell him how much you miss hearing him on the podcast from week to week. And that is all we have to say finally about 2017's Valentine. Mike Snoonian, thank you once again so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Always love having you on. Let's get you on for a non-Valentine's episode.
Okay.
Just whatever. I'll
and
let you know.
Non-horror too. We'll find something that's non-horror so you can kind of relax in the hot tub with your boys,
And I have a tentative idea for next Valentine's Day as well that I will run by you when we're done recording.
Ooh,
sounds good.
That's exciting.
So I'm gonna throw that at you here in a second. Mike, again, it's always a pleasure. Check out all his stuff. He is the best. And until next time, I am your host, Stephen Foxworthy. This has been the Disenfranchised Podcast. For the absent Brett Wright, the present Tucker, and the very special guest, Mr. Mike Snoonian. Until next time, I'm about to roundhouse kick this motherfucker in the face. Like she do in the movie.